Welcome everyone to IsisParenting Sleep Support Webinar and Chat. My name is Nancy Holtzman. I'm a mom and baby nurse educator, board certified lactation consultant, and board certified in pediatrics. I'm the mom of 2 older teenagers, and I am the vice president of clinical content and online learning here at IsisParenting, based in Boston, Massachusetts, and coming this spring to Dallas-Fort Worth and Atlanta, Georgia. So with me today, as she is every Tuesday at 12 noon, is my friend and colleague, Megan Casano. And Meg is our IsisParenting senior sleep consultant and co-leads our sleep team of, I think we have about 10 sleep consultants actually on our team right now. And we are today speaking about sleep and nap patterns for one of the busiest groups of babies, the 5 to 9 month olds. And I think Meg can give a little bit of an overview as to why this, although may not be the most challenging time in terms of sleep, this is the age group that we see so much of in the Sleep Consult program. So take it away, Meg. Maybe you'd like to share a little bit about why our Sleep Consult numbers really seem to peak at 6 months.
Thanks, Nancy. Yeah, sure. We knew this would probably be a popular topic because, well, for a number of reasons, but so much changes between the 5 to 9 months. Your baby starts to be able to have a schedule, but then as soon as you get established in a schedule, your baby starts to change around that schedule a little bit, from naps all the time to 3 naps to 2 naps. So there's a lot in flux. Feedings tend to change, the introductions of solids. Some parents are going back to work. I mean, there's just so much that is going on in the 5 to 9 month group, and we help parents. Of course, we deal with sleep, but also as it relates to things like breastfeeding and nursing and daycare and schedules and siblings and everything. So and then the other thing that happens is sometimes I say, so the newborn glow is sort of wearing off by 5 months, and you're just darn tired. And you're ready to consolidate up your baby's sleep, get a little more predictable, and this is actually the perfect time to do it. So we'll jump right in. And just so you know, those of you who are listening, that the age that we're talking about here, I think it's popular in some ways too, because this is the time when you really can have more expectation of your baby in terms of predictability. And one of the main reasons for that is that your baby's circadian rhythm or body clock is really maturing now. It's the circadian rhythm has been matured in your baby or been able to be regular and mature in your baby at the bedtime hour and by this age for the overnight. And it starts to really get your daytime sleep organized as well. So the thing about the circadian rhythm is that it really works best with regularity. It can absorb change up to 30 minutes, fine. Once you start having change in your baby's schedule that's more than 30 minutes, it can desynchronize a bit, and then it becomes very difficult for you to plan your baby's next sleep episode. So this 5 month, as you're getting to the 5 month mark, or if you've already passed it, you definitely want to be providing your baby's body clock with regularity. We're going to talk more about that. You might want to go back at some point and check out our other recorded webinars about how to establish a bedtime routine leading up to your baby's bedtime or nap time, how to create a perfect sleep environment, and if you are at the age where you might be needing to reduce some night feedings, you might take a look at that too. We're going to talk about all of these things so you'll know how it relates to your particular situation. Here's just a little graph for you. We base what we do in science. And so this is actually a graph of circadian rhythm. This is for an older baby who is actually taking 1 nap during the day, this little bump in the middle around 12 p.m. That's coinciding with when babies are typically napping in the midday, when they're having just 1 nap a day. The current theory is babies who are napping more than that, there would be more bumps in the graph. Just an illustration again of the way the sleep hormones change and rise and fall at different times during the day. Okay, so the other main driver for your baby's sleep is sleep pressure. So you have circadian rhythm, that's hormonally driven. It likes regularity. You have sleep pressure, that's basically your baby's sleepiness. How tired is your baby? The longer your baby has been awake, the more tired she's becoming. It doesn't necessarily mean the easier it will be for her to fall asleep or the longer she'll sleep. Although typically, if a baby's been awake for a very short period of time, they might not need as long of a nap to sort of revive them. And if a baby's been awake for a longer period of time, they would then need a longer nap to refresh that sleep pressure. Okay, so one of the things that you want to know as well, and again, this is all really great science stuff that we love to provide for you. You've got your baby's circadian rhythm working for you at bedtime, and your sleep hormones are rising. You've got your baby's sleep pressure working for you at bedtime. The sleepiness is rising. And I always tell parents in sleep consults, you know your baby will fall asleep at bedtime. He has to. Naps are a little different during the day. That can be more challenging. But at bedtime, you know it's going to work. And so you always start an intervention that you're doing at bedtime. But then you've got this sort of funny thing called the wake maintenance zone for sleep. And that's shown here by this red bar. And basically, it's a little counterintuitive, but the period of time right before your baby's typical bedtime is actually one of the hardest times of the day for your baby to fall asleep. It's like baby prime time. You just, if you put your baby to bed in your baby's wake maintenance zone, it would not be a fair expectation for sleep. Your baby probably would not be able to fall asleep, like if you're trying to change a sleep association and have your baby learn to fall asleep in a new way. You need to make absolutely sure that you're not putting your baby to bed in your baby's wake maintenance zone. And that just means that you're not going to make changes in your baby's bedtime that would be greater than 30 minutes all at once. So if your baby goes to bed at 7:30 each night, and you're thinking about starting a sleep intervention and teaching your baby to fall asleep in a new way, you would not want to put your baby to bed at, say, 6:45 that night, because you'd probably be putting your baby to bed in the wake maintenance zone. Just important to know, so that as you're thinking about making changes or asking your baby to learn something new, you're really setting yourself up for the maximum success. Okay, the only thing I will say is that extreme overtiredness can trump the wake maintenance zone. So if your baby's had a terrible day of napping or missed a nap completely, miserably overtired, yes, then you go ahead and you compensate, and that extreme overtiredness will carry your baby through the wake maintenance zone and on into the rest of the night. And so if you do that on a one-off occasion, yes, that is actually a good thing. It's going to help prevent the accumulation of sleep debt. Okay, so now you know you've got your in the 5 to 9 month age group, your baby's got a circadian rhythm, sleep pressure, but also the wake maintenance zone, which is making you aware of the time you're going to ask your baby to fall asleep. Okay, so moving on to sort of the schedule, you are, this Nancy likes to say, and we've all sort of adopted this, keep your bookends to your day nice and regular. So you're looking to establish a 30-minute wake-up window and a 30-minute bedtime window, which means you're trying on a regular basis, without being rigid, but being regular, to put your baby down for bed within the same 30-minute window and to wake your baby up if needed, or your baby will be waking up in the same 30-minute window. Your baby's body clock has the ability to become so regular that you wouldn't need to wake your baby. We're going to talk about this more too. But if your baby was sleeping past your 30-minute window in the morning and you were in the middle of a sleep intervention, you would want to wake your baby and start your day. You wouldn't want to be transplanting any sleep that might have been lost during the night into your morning. You really want to keep the night's sleep in the night. So you get your baby up at the normal time, and then if your baby needs to have a nap a little earlier or a little more daytime sleep that day, that would be fine. The other thing I like to say here too is that it doesn't really matter to me what time your baby goes to bed. It just matters that it works for your family and that your baby's getting enough sleep. So unless you have to be up and out the door early for a daycare or a drop off at preschool, if it works better for your family to be on a later shift, like a 9:30 bedtime with an 8:30 wake up, that's fine. Okay, so when we're talking about babies who are in the 5 to 9 month range, we are now at this age expecting 10 and a half to 12 hours of sleep overnight. So any family that's working with us in a sleep consult, if their babies are under 10 and a half hours in the overnight, that is a goal of a sleep consult, to bring the night totals up at least into that range. In the overnight, 1 to 2 feedings are still considered normal. Certainly babies on the younger end, like the 5 to 6 months, it would be more typical for them to be having still 2 feedings. Babies older, 8 to 9 months, probably just 1 feeding. Some babies wouldn't have any at all. But definitely by 5 months, we are looking for a first long stretch of sleep to be developed. Your baby is able to do that. And Nancy knows, and everyone who talks to me knows, I am quite conservative with feedings. And even I say by 5 months, we are looking for, and a goal in a sleep consult is we are getting at least a 6-hour stretch, unless there's a medical reason that your baby shouldn't be doing that. Okay, so for nap time, the nap patterns are starting to develop, and by 6 months is when your baby would really be able to have a nice regular daytime sleep schedule. So 5 months, you might still be a little unpredictable. By 5.5 to 6 months, certainly by 8, 9 months, you have the ability to have a very predictable schedule. So watching your baby for signs of sleepiness, like you might have done when your baby was a newborn, is still important, but watching the clock is important too. I talk to lots and lots of parents who, as I say, get stuck in the newborn rut. They sort of take sleepy signs and run with it with their 6-month-old, and they say, oh, she rubbed her eyes, so I rushed her into bed. But maybe their 6-month-old was only up for an hour. And as your baby gets older, she's going to be able to withstand greater amounts of sleep pressure, which means more time spent awake. And so you are watching for the more mature baby napping pattern to develop, and your baby's naps will start to space about 2 to 3 hours apart. And so it's not like the day your baby turns 5 months, all of a sudden he's staying awake for 3 hours between his naps. It's sort of an overall awareness that as you move past the 4-month mark and you're getting closer to 6 months, you are helping your baby to space nap times apart. And so you end up with a morning nap, a midday nap, and a late afternoon nap. I'm going to talk specifically month to month what this would look like. Daytime sleep averages is about 3 to 3.5 hours, and add that on to the 10.5 to 12 in the overnight. Some other helpful webinars that you might enjoy listening to. Okay, and then because everyone asks it, and some people have the philosophy that you should never, ever, ever wake your sleeping baby. Really, there are times when you should wake your sleeping baby, and that would be to protect and preserve the regularity of the circadian rhythm. So remember sleep pressure. If your baby's conking out late in the afternoon and gearing up for a long nap, and it's going to totally wreck your bedtime, you would want to wake your baby so that you can protect the regularity of the bedtime you've been establishing. This is especially if you're in an intervention period of teaching your baby how to fall asleep in a new way. It's going to be really important that you are in control of your baby's sleep pressure, that you know when to ask your baby to go to sleep, so that you're really confident in your timing and the change you're expecting your baby to make. So really the most frequent times you might need to wake your baby would be for a late afternoon nap that's going too long, or in the morning to prevent oversleeping. Okay, those would be the most common times. All right, so now I'm going to show you my favorite sleep plot that was created by Erin, my co-sleep team leader. Actually, I think one of her friends recorded the data and she created it. So this is real data from a real baby. This is very cool. We use sleep assessments or sleep plots in our sleep consults, and basically what you're going to see, so you can see this up close, starting all the way in the left-hand column is actually 4 a.m. So that's not the morning time. It's not until you're getting closer to, well, maybe it's the morning time for some of you, but as you're getting to 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., that's where the morning starts. And then what you do is you shade in the boxes when your baby is asleep, and you leave them blank when your baby's awake. And so you start to get this really nice visual. It becomes slightly addicting, and you should get these nice columns, sort of straight lines that you start to see patterns developing. And so what it ends up looking like, this is a baby's sleep. This is a pretty typical graph during the first year. And so you can see that, remember this, newborn land, where it's very unpredictable and exhausting, but wonderful. And then the circadian rhythm starts to develop. And you start to get these nice, longer, nicer stretch of consolidated sleep and a more predictable bedtime. And then the morning wake becomes more regular, and then you start to get these 3 naps. Isn't this cool? I love this. All right, so we're going to break this down month to month. If you are joining us and your baby is between 5 and 6 months old, you are definitely expecting more sleep at night than during the day at this point. And you are definitely expecting no wake-ups in the first third of the night. That first third of the night is designed to be your baby's deepest sleep cycles. It should be the longest, most uninterrupted stretch of sleep of the night. Now, whether that's 4 to 6 hours for some babies, it becomes 7, 8, 9 hours for other babies. But that first third of the night is deep sleep. So if you had been doing anything that might potentially interrupt that first third of the night, like a dream feeding where you might be waking your baby to offer a food, or anything else during that time of the night, you want to stop that now and really let that third of the night really consolidate up into that nice deep sleep. That's the time of night where, sometimes at certain points, literally the fire alarm could go off in your house and your baby wouldn't wake up. As you move on, just another word, just in case it comes up, with the dream feeds at this point, it can just start to disrupt the flow of the evening or the flow of the night sleep at that hour. So better, we actually don't recommend doing them at all. That's sort of another topic. If you have been doing them and they worked for you, great. I mean, it's no problem. For newborns, just anecdotally, some parents do find they're helpful, and that's fine. But this would be the time that you would stop doing them. But be sure you take a look at gently reducing night feedings. You don't ever want to stop a solid feeding like that just cold turkey. So you'd want to take care to wean it down. And then if your baby's 5 to 6 months old, you are looking for few to no wake-ups during the last 2/3 of the night. And so, this could be 1 to 2 wake-ups, possibly both for feedings. Particularly the last third of the night, is made up of more Rem sleep, which is baby's dreaming sleep. And babies, those of you who listen might have heard me say this before, babies do not have the Rem sleep paralysis that adults do. So they're going to move and scooch and grunt and groan and cry and suck and smile and do all these things in their sleep, which can also be disruptive to them in their sleep. That last third of the night too, your baby's sleep pressure, that sleepiness, is lower because they just had a bunch of hours of sleep to help refresh them. And so that last third of the night is notoriously difficult at this age, more difficult. So if you are doing a feeding, it can be helpful if you actually use your feeding in the last third of the night to help your baby then, with a nice full belly to make it through until your morning time. For the daytime sleep in the 5 to 6 month olds, you're looking for a nice regular morning nap to be appearing, and the way to establish that is to have a regular wake up time. And then about 2 hours after your baby wakes up is about the time that your baby would be getting ready for the first nap. So trying to make that first stretch of wakefulness too long. Generally, the nap length is about 60 to 90 minutes for nap number 1, assuming your baby had a pretty good night. And then nap number 2 would begin about 2 to 3 hours after the end of nap number 1. Nap number 2 is usually a bit longer than nap number 1. Nap number 3 is also beginning about 2 hours, sometimes a little more. It kind of depends on the length of the middle nap. It's beginning after the end of nap 2. It is variable in length, although that third nap is generally just a single sleep cycle, which for most babies is between 30 to 45 minutes long. And that nap is usually just to sort of tide your baby over to bedtime. Okay, for babies who are in the 6 to 9 month range, night feedings, I always say, I love how we wrote this, night feedings will gradually disappear as if they just go away on their own. Sometimes they do, but sometimes you have to help them disappear too. And so again, take a look at gently reducing night feedings. You may have to be working now on sleep associations and how your baby's falling to sleep at bedtime, teaching your baby to carry that over into the middle of the night. The 6 month mark is a really great time to start working on full night consistency with your baby. The 3 nap pattern, sometime between 6 and 9 months, does change into more of a 2 nap pattern. Your baby doesn't need that third nap to make it to bedtime anymore. Now you have a morning nap, a midday nap, and those naps tend to start spacing a little bit farther apart. For example, your morning wake-up window might stay about 2 hours, but it might stretch up to about 2.5 hours as well. And then the space between the 2 naps might bump up to about 2.5 to 3 hours. And then when your third nap drops away, your longest stretch of wakefulness is the last stretch of wakefulness of the day. And that stretch of wakefulness may end up becoming as long as 4 hours. Probably not for a 6-month-old, but by the time you get to 9 months and older, it is your longest time that your baby is awake in the whole day. That's that last stretch of wakefulness. Okay, so how to establish this? Always you're going to cue your baby for sleep by exposing them to darkness when you want your baby to be going to sleep and light when you want your baby to be awake. Afternoon natural light exposure, playing outside, fresh air, that's all really helpful to establishing the regularity of the circadian rhythm. But then when it's time for sleep, you want your baby's room to be very dark. So again, that link to the sleep environment webinar might be really helpful, and so you know that how dark your baby's room should be. It really has to be very dark, so dark that you can't read. And during the day, you want it to be dark enough that it's hard to read. And especially you're paying attention to morning light. It's really getting bright now at 6 in the morning, so you are making sure that your baby's room is staying nice and dark. Your baby's sleep environment, it's cool, it's quiet, using a white noise machine, which we highly recommend. You're using a bedtime routine to help cue your baby when it's time for sleep, and you are also paying attention to your baby's nap times. And here we have Kara's adorable twins again. As always, if you ever needed any personalized help for your particular baby and your particular situation and schedule and sleep associations and other things you're looking to fix, we are always happy to help with an individual sleep consultation as well. Oh, that's cute. That's really cute. Oh, I'm gonna be working with him.
Yes, one thing I wanted to point out, oh, there's Christine's little guy, Brooke. I love that picture. I think you are going to be helping Brooks very soon. I wanted to point out that today's webinar was really intended to be an overview of patterns we like to say expected patterns, but they don't necessarily fall into place this way. But an overview of sleeping and napping patterns from 5 to 9 months, and we didn't really get into all of the various issues, concerns, and interventions or approaches because we have so many individual webinars on those. But in terms of many of the questions that have come in, there are going to be the frequently asked questions like, what if my baby actually does wake up numerous times during that first third of the night? Somebody just asked that. Another person asked, what happens when my baby usually sleeps till 6 but wakes up at 4:30? Do I treat that like a nighttime waking, or that is that last third of the night? It's hard to settle the baby back to sleep. Am I supposed to feed, and so on? So these are all the nuanced questions, and we didn't really address interventions and the how-tos in this webinar. But let's take a few questions. We have time for a few questions, Meg, from you today. Okay. Let's see. Here's one from one of our friends. Let me pull this out as usual so I can read it. 6-month-old sleeps great at night, but seems like naps have to really be assisted, rocking, holding, pacifiers.
Yeah, so I would first say that
naps
it's normal what you're describing.
Yes, and this baby too.
Often babies can do one thing at night. They might sleep great at night.
We're talking the 5 to 6
and
month old.
then maybe not so great during the day, or they might not have any sleep associations, or they have their own sleep associations that they're managing at night, but then your other sleep associations during the day. It's because the day sleep is compartmentalized from the night sleep. It's because the sleep pressure is lower. It's because the day sleep is different. So day sleep is harder. It takes longer to fix. It takes more time for it to come together. So it's normal. That's the why of your question, I would say. The what to do is really you do want to wait until you're at least 5.5, if not 6 months adjusted from due date, so your baby's old enough. And then you may want to start a nap intervention, which we actually have. Oh, well, there's a webinar for that, and that webinar is actually really great. It gives you very much a step-by-step kind of how to do a nap intervention for your baby when it's the right time.
I'm just pulling up that slide because people can double-click right on their screen if they're, I think anybody can click on their screen and it will open up a window so you can bookmark that. So we have helping babies learn to nap, and then several people have asked about the transition. When does your baby go from the 3 naps to 2 and the 2 naps to 1? And as you saw from the first year sleep plots that we showed, as your baby drops that 3rd nap and moves to 2 naps, it really does impact the bookends to the day. So the overall 24-hour sleep doesn't change too much. It's just when the sleep happens. So the nighttime sleep does elongate a little bit. You do add a little bit of time to that. I know a lot of parents struggle as the child is dropping naps because the remaining 2 naps sometimes are also short as well, and so then you end up with an overtired, cranky kid, or a little one who's having a hard time making it to bedtime. They're dropping that 3rd nap. They take that late afternoon, that bedtime sabotaging nap that you like to call it, and that it does impact their bedtime. Let's see. Here's one. My 5-month-old used to be a great nighttime sleeper, sleeping from about 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. like clockwork until about a month ago. Now she wakes up every 3 to 4 hours during 7 p to 7 a.
Okay, so this baby's 5 months old, was sleeping great, and now all of a sudden multiple wake-ups?
She goes to sleep awake and alert.
Does she say anything about what's going on during the day?
With continuous white noise, and I do not pick her up immediately when she cries.
That would be the first thing I would look at, is what are naps doing? How much daytime sleep is the baby getting? Because too much daytime sleep could impact the baby's ability to stay asleep, to maintain that sleep. Too little, as well. But at 5 months, more commonly it would be if the baby's getting too much sleep, particularly at the end of the day or in the afternoon. I'd also be curious about feeding. Sometimes babies do go to sleep really well at bedtime when the sleep pressure's high and it's pretty easy, but then they get accustomed to being assisted back to sleep at every single wake up they have after that. Um, Now, why it happened, why it started when she had been doing great, I wish I could answer. I mean, it could be anything from teething to developmental milestones to, increased awareness and knowing what she wants when she's not getting it. I'm not sure if that's sort of the answer that she's looking for, why it started happening. But with all of these questions, I feel like I have 100 questions to ask back. To give like a super solid answer. Yeah. Oh, that's a lot of daytime sleep. What's the bedtime
Right, as
again,
I say, that's
Nancy?
why I think
8.
nap sleeping is a conversation. I think this is the mom that mentioned it. She says
Yeah,
the baby is
that's
napping
it.
well
That's
during the
the
day
answer.
and naps
I
for
mean,
a total of
that's it.
about 5 hours during the
That's
day.
yeah. That's a lot of daytime sleep. 3 to 3.5 hours is average. If your baby's doing way above average,
Well, it
now
sounds like
you're going
mom's
to drop
trying
your
to
night.
do
Like
a
your baby
7P
might,
to
if
7A
you'd like to keep
type
five
of a
hours of day
bedtime.
sleep, you might have nine and a
What,
half to
daytime
10 hours
sleep,
of
you
night
think?
sleep. Um, Probably not because because he shouldn't withstand huge amounts of sleep pressure between the naps. So it might be
So
a
maybe a
matter of
later
shortening. Like
bedtime.
I'm
I mean,
wondering if
because
this
at
baby's having
5 months,
a
her
lot of
baby's
assisted
probably not
naps,
going to
like
be
in a
able to
swing
transition
or a
to 2
stroller or
naps
a
a
car
day.
seat, which sometimes sort of artificially lengthens the naps. See why this becomes a this becomes a long conversation, but
Hmm. Yes, it's hard to do. We really don't do consults in this setting, but that's why we always have so many other questions to follow up. Okay, let's take maybe one more question. Here's one from a mom who says Harper has been working really hard on crawling. It seems like as a result she gets
okay.
incredibly
So do
fussy
you know
after
how old
being
the
awake
baby
for
is,
only an hour
Nancy?
and a half. So she's only
I
awake for
always
about
I
2 hours
always
at a
ask how old
time
is the
and
baby.
then
How old is
naps
the
for
baby?
about
If she's
45
working on
minutes to an
crawling, she's got
hour,
to
maybe an
be
hour
in
and
the
15
eight
minutes. How
to
can I
ten
help
month
her
range.
stretch the
Okay,
awake
nine
times
months.
and get back to 2 naps
Um,
per day?
yeah. So actually, the naps that she's describing aren't
Let's
aren't
see.
terrible. I mean,
Well,
yeah.
I know.
Sure. I mean, 45 minutes might be a little short. I know that it would be better to have two nice solid naps a day. But if you're going through a developmental transition, it might be a few weeks actually where you're back in a 3 nap pattern as she's
Typical.
figuring out the crawling. And
Yeah.
then, you just, as you feel like she's getting more confident, she's building up her endurance and getting better at the new skill, then you just start to stretch her slowly. So if she's been awake for 90 minutes between the nap, then have her stay awake for an hour and 45 minutes between the naps for a few days, and then try to push it to 2 hours for a few days. And you just sort of go slow and build up her tolerance to the sleep pressure until you get back to where you want to be.
Yeah, I think the NAP transitions webinar is really helpful. But as a quick reminder, the black lines are the naps here. So you can see during this phase, this baby is taking three pretty distinct naps each day, and then it's a transition period over here where for a week, or it looks
Right.
like for about almost a week, the baby did go to 2 naps, and notice how the bedtime moved a little bit earlier, and then for whatever reason, this week here, that third nap came back. And so you can see, and notice too that the bedtime got later too. So it can be a variety of things, whether you're traveling and you're in the car more, or developmental something's going on. But as you say in the nap transitions webinar, it can be a week or two of a transition period. So maybe your baby teased you with the 2 nap pattern now is back in the
that's the
three-nap
million
pattern. But
dollar
at 9 months,
question.
probably
And
is not going to stay in that three-nap pattern
that
too much longer.
is not an easy answer.
A
It's a
quick
little more of
question
an art
before
than
we
a science
wrap
at the end
up.
of the day.
What is the
If you're seeing a lot of
latest
irregularity,
you
the
want a
best thing
nap
you
to
can do
start
is
or
track
finish
your
before
baby.
bedtime?
But because it depends on the baby's age, it depends on how much day sleep the baby's getting that's preceding the last nap. Depends on how much night sleep the baby's getting. Honestly, I'm sorry, I don't mean to deflect, but I can't give just a straight up answer. There isn't one. I really have to know the baby. Yeah, well, I guess if you're talking about just the afternoon nap, and I mean, if I guess I was interpreting this as that third nap.
For
The
the
third
most
nap is
part,
tricky, where parents aren't really
you
sure
want
where
that
that falls
longer.
between the second
That's
nap and
typically the
bedtime.
longest stretch of
It could be a
awake
cat
time,
nap. If you're
correct?
talking about, I want my baby to go to bed at 7, and she's taking 2 nice naps each day, and she's 9, 10 months old, or I guess younger, maybe 8 to 9
It
months
could be a
old.
cat nap even.
And if you'd like your bedtime to be around 7, you probably want your baby up by 3:30. But that's if she's having 2 good naps during the day, and that's if she's old enough for the schedule, and that's a lot of, it's a lot of ifs.
Yep. All right. Well, I think we do need to wrap for today, and we are continuing on. We're revisiting the sleep and nap patterns series over the next couple of weeks. So this week we talked about 5 to 9 months. Next week, I believe we are going to be covering the 9 to 15-month age range. So those of you who have babies in that age range, send along your photos. You can see that I've refreshed the pictures, and I'm putting in pictures of our loyal followers and listeners. And clear, crisp pictures are always welcome of babies in safe sleep environments, unless we're using a picture to make a point, which you may not necessarily want your point up there for that. But we are here. We're always here to help you. So feel free to give a call, and remember that when you do call to schedule a sleep consult, you don't have to make your appointment right then. Making this phone call just starts the process, which involves some intake materials and a little bit of homework on your end first, and then over the next few days, you actually schedule your appointment. And usually have your appointment sometime about a week after your initial phone call. So don't feel like you have to be ready for a consult the moment you call, because we usually have at least a week's wait anyway to get an appointment. What else can I tell you? On Thursday, the breastfeeding webinar at 12 noon is going to be the topic of low milk supply concerns. So we'll cover all of the general information about maintaining a strong milk production and perceived low production, and what you can do to boost your milk production. And then next week we'll be back on Tuesday at 12 noon, and wish you all happy nurturing and good health, and enjoy some beautiful weather. And also, if you are or have friends in the Dallas, Fort Worth, or Atlanta area, let me know, because we are opening in less than a month, and we're working right now on some grand opening events and some VIP ambassador type events. So I'm looking to network with some folks in those areas. All right, Meg, thank you so much for sharing your information. Everybody, thank you for attending and for spreading the word and for sharing the pictures of your beautiful babies. And we will see you on Twitter, and we will see you soon. Bye-bye.